It's Rings of Power time again, so spoilers. Where did I leave it? I'm going to go right in, give you the meat and give it to you raw, because from the last video I did and the time when people tuned out, it appears that the YouTube audience seemed to have attention deficit disorder. So challenge accepted. While I love and respect each highly valued member of my audience, it appears I'm going to have to bring more razzmatazz for all of you quick shots with no staying power.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Okay, you asked for it. So when I left the show, we were with the elves. Halbrand had just given the idea to Celebrimbor to alloy the mithril, saying, consider it a gift. And the showrunners had just blown the surprise, because one of Sauron's alternate names was Anatar, the gift giver in Elvish, or should I say they blew it again, because I looked back at my reviews and I started calling Halbrand Sauron in episode 3, which I would say with the show being very predictable if I hadn't started calling the stranger Gandalf in episode 1, about 15 seconds after the first time I saw him. I'm just saying, it kind of ruined the big reveal in episode 8. The Elven Smiths are trying to decide how best to use the mithril to save themselves, and Celebrimbor has a cunning plan.
It's a cunning plan, actually.
It's the one he got from Sauron. Sorry, Halbrand. Not Sauron, definitely not Sauron. The Elven King says that since the Mountain of Fire's eruption, the blight affecting their people has quickened. So he knows about Mordor now, and when did he learn that? Did Galadriel tell him off camera? I'm getting so bored of this. It feels like more of the story happens off camera than on it. But Celebrimbor already has his solution, to alloy the mithril. He says, it was only in speaking with the Southlander that I realised. His suggestions were the key that unlocked the dam. We're on the cusp of crafting a new kind of power, not of strength, but of spirit. Not of the flesh, but over flesh. This is a power of the unseen world. And Galadriel smells a rat. Those words of power over flesh, she says, where did you hear them? Was Halbrand with you? And she starts to sense that something is wrong with Sauron. Sorry, Halbrand. And what is that line? A key that unlocked the dam. It's hardly a well-used phrase. It's a horrible mixed metaphor ordinarily. Normally the phrase would be the key that opened the lock, or what broke the dam. And I'm not sure if this line is clever or idiotic, because in this series, a key, the Keyblade, did unlock a dam. The dam that broke in episode 6 and created Mount Doom. So are the writers clever or are they morons? I'm not sure. Comment below. So the elves set about working the mithril, and I'm not sure how they're going to work something that hard. How did the dwarves even mine it? Surely they're going to need some very special tools in order to do that. Or they can just hit it with a chisel, apparently. In their defence, maybe the ore is softer than refined mithril. Meanwhile, Galadriel asks for records to be brought to her about the lineage of the kings of the Southlands. She's grown suspicious of definitely not Sauron. Galadriel is given records stating that the last king of the Southlands died 1,000 years ago, leaving no heirs, and she confronts Halbrand with this information. He goes full mask off. She asks what his name is, and he says he's been around for a very long time and he's had a lot of names. She then tries to stab him with a knife. What follows seems to take place in Galadriel's head, as Sauron uses images to try and woo her to his side. And they have done so much damage to Lord of the Rings with these scenes. Sauron seems to have genuine love and affection for her. He reminds her how she said it didn't matter what he'd done in the past, but she's changed her mind now that she knows he's Sauron, so she was lying when she said that. You've made Galadriel into a liar, and Sauron now has less menace and mystique than Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget. Sauron then says the following to Galadriel.
You would make me a tyrant.
I would make you a queen. Fair as the sea and the sun. Stronger than the foundations of the earth.
And how dare you, Amazon? How dare you get your grubby hands on that? That speech is not yours to ruin. Galadriel's speech in Lord of the Rings did not need an origin story. It never needed you to fix it. It was perfect as it was. I'm not even sure that Peter Jackson should have changed it. But he did change it. Here's the text from Lord of the Rings, the Tolkien version. The context is in Lothlorien when Frodo offers Galadriel the ring. Galadriel says, "And now at last it comes. You will give me the ring freely. In place of the Dark Lord, you will set up a queen, and I shall not be dark, but beautiful and terrible as the morning and the night, fair as the sea and the sun, and the snow upon the mountain, dreadful as the storm and the lightning, stronger than the foundations of the earth. All shall love me in despair." She lifted up her hand, and from the ring that she wore there issued a great light that illuminated her alone and left all else dark. She stood before Frodo, seeming now tall beyond measurement and beautiful beyond enduring, terrible and worshipful. Then she let her hand fall, and the light faded, and suddenly she laughed again, and lo, she was shrunken, a slender elf woman clad in simple white, whose gentle voice was soft and sad. "I passed the test," she said. "I will diminish and go into the west and remain Galadriel." It's hard to know what Tolkien was thinking when he wrote this, but "All shall love me in despair" reminds me of the poem Ozymandias by Percy Shelley. If you don't know it, it goes, "I met a traveller from an antique land, who said, 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed, and on the pedestal these words appear, 'My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, in despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away.'" So maybe Tolkien was trying to evoke these feelings of time bringing everything to ruin, from a humble man to a great despot, the ambitions of men fading into dust. In the Peter Jackson films, he made Galadriel darker, and here's his version of the same speech.
"In place of a Dark Lord, you would have a queen, not dark, but beautiful and terrible as the morn, treacherous as the sea, stronger than the foundations of the earth. All shall love me and spare."
So Peter Jackson added treacherous as the sea. So now Galadriel is treacherous in this imagined form. The laughter has also been removed. In his version, she's deadly serious. She's far more tempted than in Tolkien's version. And now Amazon have made her darker again. Amazon retconned it. So when she gave her speech in Lord of the Rings, she was quoting Sauron. This is vandalism. And maybe she should have taken him up on it. Maybe she could have prevented a lot of suffering by doing so. Or maybe she knew that he'd just end up corrupting her. During these scenes, Sauron reveals that none of this was planned on his part. He got taken to where the rings were being made entirely by accident. He met Galadriel by accident. He wanted to stay in Numenor. Showrunners, what have you done? You now expect the audience to believe that Galadriel was searching for Sauron for untold centuries, went for an unfeasible swim in the ocean, and in the expanse of the empty ocean happened to find a raft. And on that raft was the man that she'd been searching for all that time. This is untenable. You've done all that, and now, if anything, the forging of the One Ring is Galadriel's fault. The only way that I could defend that scene was to think that maybe, just maybe, Sauron had somehow contrived their meeting. That there was a diabolical mastermind behind it all. But no, you've shut the door on even that now. Sauron has been reduced to a love-drunk bumbler, creating evil by accident. Galadriel's speech in Lord of the Rings did not need an origin story. Sauron didn't need an origin story, neither did Mithril or Mount Doom. What is this obsession with retconning and origin stories that Hollywood has? It reminds me of the film Solo, where his name needed an origin story. Han Solo needed an origin story. His ship needed an origin story. Some things it's fine to just leave as mysteries. I would love to see anyone who claims to like this series justify that. Go on, the comment section is right below. I dare you, try it.
Could you make me a cup of tea, please, Stephanie?